Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello, and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect and Quiver Time and my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. I have been hanging out with Wheeler way too much because now I cannot say Patreon without having that .com be like .com, and I'm like, these Canadians, man, they're a bad influence on me. Today, I'm very excited to have a really cool writer who's been doing a bunch of like articles and stuff for EDHRec and for Cool Stuff for a long time, which makes sense because you're like in Florida and Cool Stuff is too.
Yeah.
Cas Hinds, I'm really excited because like it make it my job to pay attention to everybody who does anything to do with Commander, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And your face, like you started writing articles, it's felt like out of nowhere. And then like you moved over to EDHRec and you've been writing it. I like your articles a lot. I think you have a really interesting and unique voice. And I was like, I know everybody who does everything in this. Who is this person? So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to answer that question.
Yeah, I started writing for Cool Stuff because I saw an ad for it. My background is in writing, and I had like written every writer has their story where they wrote a book and it didn't go anywhere. But yeah, I saw an ad at Cool Stuff, and I used to work there back in the day. That's actually how I got into Magic. Is I used to work.
Okay, I think we're telling the story the wrong way around.
Yeah.
All right, so because that's the other thing. It's like real talk. There are not a lot of English-speaking minorities in Magic who do a lot of writing and stuff, and I make it a point to know who all of them are for obvious reasons as well. Yeah. So I was like, it's a black lady who writes about Commander. What the hell? I need to know everything there is to know.
Yeah.
And like. So, how did you find Magic?
Yeah,
we kind of do want to move that mic a smidge a bit.
I started initially, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Since I was a kid. I was like super obsessed. I never heard of Magic until I started working at an LGS. I like got the job because I knew about Yu-Gi-Oh! And then at lunch, everyone was playing one game. They were playing Commander. And I was just like, okay, well, I need to learn about this to do my job better. Let me get interested. So I started playing like 1v1 formats. I like forced my younger brother to like sit with me to learn the rules of Magic, and I still don't know the rules of Magic. So like that's how I started. I started playing during lunch times in Commander at Cool Stuff when I started working at Maitland.
I mean, I feel like if there's a place that you're going to learn how to play Commander, Cool Stuff is definitely where you're going to get.
Yes, lots of people who will explain the rules in great detail.
Yeah, because like that was, ironically, that's the like Cool Stuff that was closest to Sheldon Menery when he was still alive. Sheldon, obviously the father of Commander. So literally, if you were going to find a place to teach you how to play Commander, I guess that's the store to do it.
Yeah, I started around Kaladesh. I played at like a pre-release there and started playing with the people who worked there, which is very different in terms of playing with people who are not like more casual about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because like, look, there's a tier of person who works in LGS for Magic stuff or for card game stuff. We have like a level of knowledge and a level of like awareness and a level of like obsessiveness. You don't work at the company store unless you're like already like, I remember of my LGS owner when I lost my job once, he was like, do you want to work here? And I'm like, no, I won't make any money. This is going to be a net negative. Like, bro, you don't reap where you sow, right? Like, this is a bad idea. It was like, because I had a college job where I worked in an arcade and another college job where I worked in a bookstore, and I made net zero on all of those because it's just like, oh, I'm just coming home with tokens. I can't eat these. This is bad.
I spent so much of my paychecks Like when I first started, I was like a baby making minimum wage there. I spent my entire paycheck
Oh,
on
Jesus.
Magic stuff. I like lived really close by, and my rent was nothing, and I had no responsibilities. I was very young, and I spent every dollar I made on building really really bad commander decks.
That is the dream life, though. No responsibilities, a disposable income, and I work in a toy store. So
Yeah.
oh my god! And it's worse because like everybody I know who works at places like Cool Stuff or Card Kingdom, Star City, whatever, it sucks because you're seeing all the flood of the cards coming in that people are selling from everywhere, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just happen to set this serialized, whatever aside." I'm like, "Bro, that's like $700." Yeah, no, it's only $550 to me. I'm like, "It's $500. What the
Yeah.
hell, buddy?"
I when I write for Cool Stuff, I get credit, and I use my credit to buy more decks so I can write more articles. I write articles for Cool Stuff to fund my addiction.
You know what? Here's a secret of the podcast that I do. I do these podcasts because they well and cover all the Magic cards I need to buy.
Yes.
That's a terrible place to be. But that being said, like we all know where we're at with this game. You don't get to be a content creator if you're not some level of unhinged
Or devoted. Yeah.
Yeah, or devoted. Yeah, right. But that's sweet. Like Commander is a strange place to start playing Magic, especially Kaladesh block, especially in that time when there's like, because that's 2016, 2017 when Commander is starting to really get popular with
Yeah.
people who aren't judges.
Full sets. Yeah.
How did you discover, or like, how did you find that ramp learning Magic? Because I mean, obviously you knew how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, so you know card games.
Yeah.
But like Commander is a thing.
Yeah. It was really tough because like I'll be 100% honest that Magic is not as kind to new players
No.
as in the past as they are now. They're much kinder now. Commander is more of a hobby that a lot of people have. It's not just card game players playing a card game. It's like people have this hobby and they do other things, right? And I think that when you look at the competitive side of like TCGs in general, there is like a learning curve of just getting socially like ingrained in how people are going to treat you.
Word.
When I first started, I got a lot of blowback. One being a woman in TCGs. A lot of men did not want to teach me. I had to. I got known at the card shop as being a person who would skip lunch to play Magic. I would skip my lunch just to find any person willing to play a game with me, and I did it every day. And that's how I sort of got into it. Is that I played so much. I just played so much of the game. And when people corrected me, I took that as an opportunity to learn. I started looking up how rulings work. I started looking up card interactions. I became sort of bookish about the game. And I would say that I didn't even become competitive in how the rules work until very recently when I started playing a lot of high-powered games of Commander.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, there's like two levels of rules you need, right? There's like, I know how to play the game, and then there's like, I know how to actually exploit the rules in such a way as to win the game.
Exactly.
And like, I know, I mean, most of us who have been here long enough understand the difference and learn the things. And you also just figure out, like, you know what, I know where I need to settle to, and I'm not too worried beyond that. But you hit on a very interesting point that I discovered, or that we used to talk about a lot on the CAG and stuff, which is like when you're trying to learn a one-on-one game, the other person's teaching you, but they're also trying to beat you because this is a one-on-one game. You're you're in competition with each other. And sometimes when you're learning from somebody who's better than you, they're just going to thrash you, and you're going to be like, that wasn't very fun. Or you have the fire and you're like, I need to beat him and beat everything.
Yeah.
But like, that's not a good way to learn, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, the other thing is though that made because early on, WotC was very like confused as to why so many people were using Commander as a way into Magic, and because like it didn't make any sense to the decision makers being like, Commander is insanely complicated. It's multiple 100 card decks that have cards for 30 years worth of Magic, no cohesion, no cohesiveness, and like you have to read and see 400 different keywords on every card. And what the hell? This is like everything that our heuristics tell us about how people learn. This is the wrong way to do it. What they didn't realize is when you're playing a game of Commander multiplayer, it is not you versus you versus you versus you. It is the four of you versus the table. And it's like your partner can teach you and can help you and can look at your hand because you guys are not necessarily in direct conflict with each other. You're all trying to win, but you're not trying to necessarily fight each other specifically, right? So you get this idea of like, it reminds me of Ninja Warrior, that show, the obstacle course show, where it's like, it's not the dudes against each other, it's the dudes against the hill. And they're all trying to beat that hill because they know nobody's going to actually beat it, but one person might. So they collect all their knowledge and try to get up to the top of that. And I think that's why Commander was such a good lead in, despite being so hard card wise, because the fact that people were willing to help you and the stakes are as low as they possibly can get. Like, you don't get anything if you win a game of Commander. This is also, audience, this is also why I really always rail against tournament EDH, because once you put stakes on this, you lose the entire soul of the format, which is being able to welcome people in. That being said, that's a different rant for all the time. All the time. But yeah, like, because I don't know, like, I think about the fact that Olivia Gober-Hicks, who is like one of the greatest Commander people of all time, learned to play Magic. And I never get tired of telling this story. She learned to play Magic by playing two-headed giant Commander, as in 8 people at the table with crazy decks. And I'm like, two-headed giant Commander is the most insane possible thing I can think of to learn how to play. And they're all high and everything. I'm like, how are you? What? Why would you? What the hell is going on?
How are you passing your turn?
Right, I don't understand. It's so crazy. And especially like someone cast a Wrath or, Scrambleverse, and now what do we do? Oh my God.
You touched on something that I think is like immensely important about, I see this argument online because I'm deeply online about Magic stuff. And I have seen people talk
Wouldn't know anything about it.
People say, what's the best way to teach someone Magic? Not just Commander, but to teach Magic. And a lot of people say 1v1 formats because there are less cards to understand. And I've always disagreed with this. I think that what makes Magic enticing is how fun it is. And it is hard for it to be both fun, educational, and a learning environment when you are turboing someone. You're thinking about a meta. You're thinking about an established game that people have been playing for 30 years and have maximized. You're learning how to play how everyone's played before. And what's so fun is that a lot of people who start with Commander see a legendary creature and think, I like this thing. I want to build around it. And I think that joy takes you through the 500 cards you have to learn to take a turn action. Like, it takes you through having to figure out who's arch enemy, learning every card in the set, like building your deck, spending in the money. I think it's the joy. And I think that makes it easier to teach. And I say this coming from someone who was taught for 8 years. Like, that was my job until very recently. And I think that joy pushes people to retain information a lot more. And I think competitive formats, while fun, have a different goal in mind. The fun is competitive. And I don't think that like Commander is.
Yes, 100%. I'm not trying to say that competition isn't fun. Obviously it's fun, otherwise people wouldn't do it, right? Like, winning is fun. Getting to the top of a tournament is fun. Trying to out-strategize your opponents is fun. But when you're a new player, if I hand you a deck, if it's like when you're a new player and you're learning how to play Magic and somebody gives you a standard deck or something, or like Corey Seal Cutter or whatever, and they're like, your job is to cast multiple spells and get this thing to monk off, and you're like, what? Yeah. Whereas if I hand you like my Titania deck and I say like, look, you are the guardian of trees. When the trees die, you become angry and make a bunch of monsters to fight against everybody else. And it's like, oh, okay, I understand that. Or like Grimgrin, you're a king of zombies. Go. Like every Commander's deck can be told through a story, unless you're playing like, tournament level tier where it's like, these two people got together and decided to take all the best cards in their families and okay. Look, there's no story that'll let you Thassa's Oracle somebody out of the game. But most Commander decks can be told through a story, and people grok stories very easily. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's a weird story that doesn't make any sense, you're a plumber in the Mushroom Kingdom who needs to save the princess. It doesn't make sense, but it's something you can hang on and be like,
Yeah.
okay, everything within the context I can understand.
And it goes through why Commander is the most popular format, and why Universes Beyond is so popular as well, and why it brings people in is because people get attached to the things that they like, and they want to be able to interact with it as much as possible, and being able to build around, like, say, select a perfect deck for your favorite thing is just, I think,
Yeah,
immense.
exactly that. Exactly. Like, yes. I'm not gonna. I mean, you're exactly right, because that is one of the strengths of Universe Beyond. Is like, I'm gonna build the best Doctor and this companion deck to fill out this story dream I've got, or whatever. Like, here's my Drizzt Do'Urden deck to live the cool Forgotten Realms life I want to. I mean, like, yeah, it's just, once you give somebody a thematic hook, they can look through the deck and ignore all the parts that don't matter and be like, I get the theme and the idea of what you're doing, and then we can
Yes.
learn. But so you were a teacher and you were a writer before you decided, like, well, how do you get from, hey, I work at a game store, to now I'm going to start writing about Commander staples?
So, I mean, a lot of it is just capitalism.
You
I
needed a
worked at
gig.
an LGS while I was finishing up college.
Mm,
And when I was done with college, I needed a good way to make money. And I thought, well, teaching is actually super easy to get into in Florida, which is not a good thing, but it is a true thing. So right out of college, I basically just started as like a teacher, and I ended up traveling around a lot. I've taught in a lot of different states. I've taught around, and due to a lot of reasons, like, it's people who know me online know that I'm disabled, and like, because of my disability I had to stop teaching. It was
mm,
like a great joy of mine, but it's just not realistic for me anymore. And because of that, I started looking for other things that can bring me joy that were within my wheelhouse. And Magic the Gathering is like something that is a huge part of my life. I will drop almost anything, quite literally anything except for family, for Magic the Gathering. I will drop everything. So I was like, how do I get involved? I want to share some of my feelings, because I see people posting online, and I'm like, I want to capture this feeling that we get in a game of Commander in an article. I want people to read it and think, yeah, I feel the same way. So then I saw the ad while I was still working as a teacher on my way out, and I started writing for Cool Stuff. And
mm.
then EDHRec offered me a position there as well. And that's pretty much how I got my start.
You know what, man? If you can make a living, or if you can patch together an income writing for Magic, for a lot of, like, it's good, great. It's hard to do. Uh, it's like, I don't know. I think it, because, like, every time you look at, like, the pros and stuff, a lot of these people who are like former grinders and things, like, how do they supplement their income? Well, they used to write a lot of articles in order to survive between tournament wins. But yeah, like, writing for, I'm a person who hates video content. Ironically, I understand, but I'm old and I like to read. And so, like, I like that there's still people who write articles that I can read, because otherwise it's just like there used to be a time when I could sit and read 5 days worth of articles on the Magic Mothership, and then articles on Channel Fireball, TCG Player, whatever. And now it's like Cool Stuff, and like maybe Star City, and like EDHRec.
Yeah, and like TCG Player, like
Yeah.
those are the only places you can really find articles. Or like, usually when I'm writing an article, I like to see what other people are thinking. Sometimes you can find draftism, I think it is, and like a
Mm.
couple of other like
Yeah, there's like
websites that
the
write
arena places and stuff. They still
like
write like
listicles and stuff like that. Not particular, and I say this, no negativity
shade.
towards people who write listicles. I occasionally write listicles myself, but for me, what is, like, I think the most fun is seeing like an interesting emotional take on Magic. I think that a lot of times people focus on, if you play this card in your deck or this card in your deck, the top best board wipes. I wrote an article called the top best board wipes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just interesting, because I think people are looking for a connection. They're looking for a way to connect their hobby to their growth as a person, and I'm trying to tap into that with my
Yeah.
articles.
I mean, look, there, one of the things that I do, and I've done this for many, many, many years now, is basically like I post a card every day, right? I post my Scryfall random every morning when I wake up, and then I just leave it there without, more or less without comment. And part of it was like I started this because like when I was on the CAG, I realized if I start talking about cards, people start price manipulating them up and down, and I was like, okay, this is just unethical. So if I just throw up a random card, then I leave it. But what, even just putting a random image of a card online, people want to tell you about stories about that card, how it's impacted them, how it means to them, the what they've done with it, or how my one shower thought in the morning was wrong about this card. Like, it doesn't matter, but people hunger to engage and have a community. And that's why, like, I think why Twitter was so good and bad for Magic, it's like it gave us a way to talk to people, but then it did not give us a way to filter some of the thoughts that should have stayed in the back of your head.
Yeah, people get too comfortable online.
Yeah, it's like, not everybody needs to know every thought. However, that said, though, you're right. Like, even something dumb as like the 10 best elves in Magic, everybody's gonna be like, that ain't the 10 best elves. How do you possibly forget about this stupid card from Judgment?
Why, when you talked about Dionysus, it got released 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's like, or excuse me, did you forget about this card that was only released in China in Scourge? It's the absolute best. And you're like,
yeah,
bro. But that's because, like, who are the audience of Magic players? We're not, by and large, the most socially adept people on the planet. And communicating through cards is one of the tools that has given us a means to actually be able to talk to each other. Like when you go to a Magic Con and you'll see people who are very much like, you can tell that they're, I'm trying to think of the English word for this. They're like freezing up and not really, they're like kind of clammed up and don't really want to talk to anybody. They're kind of intimidated by everything.
Standoffish?
Not even standoffish, but just kind of like wary. Yeah. Wary. And then like you play a round or two, like a couple of turns, and suddenly they start to open up and they start to communicate and they start to relax. Even if you don't speak the same language, you guys can still talk through the cards. And this has given so many people a tool by which they can communicate and share their thoughts and make friends and build. It's Magic. That's why we still play it, because it's fun and it helps us build friends.
Yeah, I think that another reason why Commander is so good is because it is a communal game.
Yes.
Everyone is working together for a central goal. They're all trying to win, but at some point we have to band together to take out a person, and everyone knows that arch enemy moment where someone becomes the enemy and then everyone is using their spells together. And that's what I love. I used to do product management for Cool Stuff for cooperative board games, and I think that Commander is equal parts competitive and cooperative.
It is 100%.
that it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when we were discussing how to frame Commander, it's not just a multiplayer format, it's a social format.
Yeah.
It is a first and foremost, the principle of Commander is that we're going to be spending the next 1 to 2 hours together. We want to make sure everybody's having a good it's like board game night, right? Like if tournament Magic is like, competitive FGS, like we're here to like just fight and win. Commander is just, we're here to chill and enjoy each other's presence for the next couple hours, jam a couple of games of cards. Someone's going to win, that's fine. I might win, or I might have a really cool combo and then die. Who knows? That's not the point. The point is more that, like, and people get so mad at me when I say this. I'm like, look, we're responsible for the enjoyment of everybody else at the table, whether it's in how we build our decks or how we play our decks, or letting somebody who has been talking about this combo that they've been trying to work on for 6 months, and they finally got all the pieces on the table, and you've got the removal in your hand, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to let him have this one because I know it means a lot, and then everybody has a good time. But people are like, oh, but how could you disrespect the game? I'm like, shut up, man. That person had the time of their life, and I lost nothing. So
I think this is like a very interesting kind of thing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring you into super deep talk, but
no, I love it. This is the kind of articles I like to write. This is the kind of conversations I like to have. I think that there is something so pure about, like, it's like an echo. Like, we talk about how people's hobbies are a reflection of society at the time, and I think that as Commander rises, we see that the enjoyment of the whole becomes just as important as the individual, right? And this is why WotC has pushed so much for those brackets, why we have pushed to create like some sort of conversation about creating an enjoyable environment for people. I don't think the brackets are perfect, but the goal is to create an environment where people are happy playing together. And I think that we needed common language about that, because I think we just weren't communicating well about it. And I think that some people are going to lie. They're going to pub stomp. They're going to do whatever. But those people are people in our community. And we either need to have a conversation with them about who they want to play with from now on, if they want to get any games in, or something along those lines. I just think that it's a good reflection of how we are trying to become more communal with how we enjoy ourselves.
It's, look, I have a lot of issues with the bracket system, but I also think it's just fine. I mean, whatever. What I appreciate about the bracket system is that it has actually done the thing that we've hoped it would. We've been trying to find a way to do, which is get people to talk to each other, and get people to talk to each other in a way that's not necessarily hostile, or standoffish, but just like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what you want to do. I don't think we want to do the same thing. Please, but giving people like kind of like a kennel to sit in means that it takes a lot of the overhead off of like, oh, the awkwardness of like, ooh, is that a 2? Is that a 4? Hey, you're pub stomping me. Okay, we're all in this box of 2. We all vaguely know what this means roughly. So after that, we can just polish back and forth. Because like there was a minute there where people were like giving essays and manifestos and pulling like lengthy wallet cards out of their thing. It's like, here is the what happened to my deck at the 38th minute and the 64th minute of the game. Here's how many turns it takes. I'm like, no. I don't need a thesis on your deck. I just want to know, is this like we're chilling and playing a game deck, or is this I got to catch a bus, so I'm going to crush you deck? Right? Like, what is the goal? What are we trying to do here?
I think it tries to straddle the very thing that Commander is, which is a game that insists upon communal work and communal like decision making, while also insisting upon a winner. Right. Yeah. And I think that when we have that level of competition in having a winner, people are shooting for that, but they also have to like be very careful about what decisions they make and what enemies they make along the way, because the communal aspect of the game is what makes people win or lose. Because everyone knows that statistic that was going around about Soul Ring. It's not because Soul Ring is a card that kills players. It's because it accelerates someone so far ahead that everyone uses the removal on that player. Everyone bands together to stop them. Right. And I think that weaving in like a level of like not quote unquote politics, but like in Magic, a way of carving your way to a win is unique, because you have to play well with others in order to win.
Right. And like, I mean, that's one of the things that like when Shelton was alive and stuff, he used to push back a lot on the notion of tournament commander and stuff, because Commander deliberately sets out to be a format that is very different from every other format. Our goal is not necessarily to win, though. Yeah, winning is of course important. Keep track of beating your friends like that. We don't mind, but it's not the first goal of that format, right? Like the format is meant to be just a way to hang out and play beer and peanuts Magic the way we did in 1994. And once you add that notion of like, there's a victory condition, and let me try to figure out what I say, because like you are correct in that like there is a mentality associated with this, and like I think because there's like multiple things we were talking about here, and I'm trying to like just thread this needle here, which is that in giving people a tool by which to communicate, it helps grease the wheels so that when they start socializing with each other, we're already starting from the same place. Yes. And that was the fundamental goal of everything we did on the CAG, and that was a fundamental goal of this bracket system that Gavin and friends are building. No, it's not perfect, because trying to find matchmaking in Commander is one of the white whales of gaming. That's like one of the hardest possible things to do.
Yes.
Because Wizards know when they crack that nut, they're going to make $1 trillion. Because getting people to be able to play and have a good time and they come back and play more and know where to sit and be able to fence that off means that they have an entire ecosystem available to them. They're incentivized to want to do that. Not necessarily to want to get tournament commander, because tournament commander, the biggest problem is like when you've got a social system of that based on politics and communication and like just back and forthing with your friends, and you try to put it into a system where somebody has to win, you're going to get collusion. And if you want to avoid collusion, then like if you ask, like I asked Toby Elliott, the guy who writes the rules for tournament Magic and also one of the people who help create Commander, right? And I'm like, so what would you do if you were trying to do this? And he's like, I wouldn't, because you can't, because the fundamental nature of Commander lends itself to, hey, you and I get together and we're going to crush that dude, like you just said. But
Yeah.
if we're in a tournament and say you and I together, we're going to crush that dude, that is collusion now, right? Like
Yeah.
we're trying to get a goal together and then we're going to split the prize or whatever.
But
It's
you don't
just
get to
like,
split the prize because there still is just one winner.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, there's no way to, like, recently there was a tournament, I think at a SCG 5K or whatever, CDH, and they had come up with some fascinating system by which to determine who wins. And it's like, if you run out of time, which happens all the time in a Commander game, if you're
Yeah.
timing a Commander game, good luck. But
Yeah.
like at the end, the round is over, and then you guys show each other your hands and decide who would win by secret vote. And I'm like, that is the dumbest friggin' thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Weird.
There's no way to do that without cheating. Are you kidding me? If me and my 3 buddies come to the tournament and we're like, if we're ever in the position, we're going to vote for me. And then once we get the prize, I will split it out afterwards with all of you. You know, like there's going to be
Yeah.
some kind of that stuff going on. But it's just like, what the hell? What are you even talking about? It is ridiculous. And like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, why would you want to impose this structure on a system that was built specifically to not let you do that?
I am a firm believer that new information, you gotta cook it. I have never heard this take, so I'm not going to be quick to snap off an opinion on this. But I do think that what you've brought up is very interesting. My initial instinct is to agree with you wholeheartedly. It's something I've never thought of. But there is an interesting element to putting money on Commander games because of the nature of the game. It is equal parts. You have to give in order to get. And if someone is just really good at what they're doing and they just turbo into a win, usually that person doesn't win. Everyone uses the removal on them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like weirdly buying your time for the right opportunity to strike. It's not quite chess. It's not quite competitive. It's interesting. So it's like, it's hard to say off the top whether or not this should be something that should be prized out. But at the same time, I see the draw of CEDH. I see the draw of a competitive format that tries to take a format to its nth degree.
Sure, there's nothing wrong. Like, I'm not saying anything about that. I think CDH, like, I think you're right. If we are all in agreement that, like even I have like some very hardcore high powered decks that are like, look, I've got half an hour to play and I'm going to crush you. And we're all going to try to crush each other, NBD. And like, I don't mind that. And I think CDH is a perfectly valid way to play, because once we have a name for, like, giving that a name took away the idea of pub stomping. Because now all the people who want to pub stomp have a place they can go and play and be like, look, you guys don't want to pub stomp. Nobody likes that. You want to play against somebody who's going to be equally competitive and give you a challenge. Here is a place where you can go build to your most extreme and crush each other. And I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Tournament EDH and CDH are not the same.
Yeah.
And this is because, like, you honestly, have you never thought of the idea of colluding to win tournaments?
No, well, I've thought about how people usually the tournaments that I've seen, people don't get to choose their pods. They usually get randomly seeded. But I guess if you end up in a pod with someone and you think, hey, these 2 people are on my team, if you let me win, I'll give you half the money. I guess people can say that.
Well, because that's a very common way that Magic tournament cheating used to happen for decades. Like, this is what it used to be in, like, even the Pro Tour and even the one-on-one tiers. People agree before the tournament happens. They're like, hey, look. Or, like, you know, even before you, like, when you sit down for your pod.
They do this. Like, people will throw games on purpose. To
you know who's in your pod before you sit down to play. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Ooh, I'm going to go to the bathroom too. Suddenly we're going to have a 10-second conversation about, like, hey, I'm just saying, if I win, I'll give you, like, you want the invite to the Pro Tour. I want the cool, like, you know, boxes of cards or whatever. Let's split it, or whatever it is, right? And like, if you go to a tournament with a bunch of people in your car and you're all very good and expect to be running the table, it's very easy to collude. And like, they've been trying to solve this problem. And I'm like, the way you solve it is to take 2 players out of the pod and make it into a one-on-one game, for which we already have a very established set of rules. However, that's not what. Obviously, they don't want to listen to the turbo casual guy tell them, "Hey, maybe if you don't play tournaments, you won't have tournament problems." But you know what? I leave that to the folks who enjoy that sort of thing
Yeah.
to solve, and God bless it. And it's not my problem anymore.
It's true. It's just very interesting because now I have a little thing that is gonna go around in the back of my head every time I see a 5K CEDH tournament.
Yeah. It's like a 5K CDH tournament, and the people on the top are always folks you know, so they know each other very well because they've been playing for hours and hours. It is very easy to say like, "Hey, we all know I'm going to win this pod. I don't need this 5th time twister, but you know, and it's like, and so they try multiple different ways to find a way to not let you do that, and each way is hacky and hokey and just like." It's like kids are just so overcomplicated. Like, let me just read to you this thing that they ended up not using it because the audience protested. But this is like one of the most ridiculous. Well, I mean, they tried.
They tried.
Like, yeah. So time is called, and the current turn is finished. No further game actions can be taken. All players reveal their current hands and board states. The pod has 3 minutes total to clearly explain their intended lines of play. Players submit an anonymous vote for who they believe would win the game if it were to continue. If the majority winner is declared, they win the match. If no majority is reached, the TO uses a pre-selected tiebreaker from the secret pool to declare a winner. And then there's a secret tiebreaker pool, which is if you can't win by vote, the tournament organizer selects one tiebreaker from the following: either the total mana available, the number of non-land permanents to play, resolved tutors, cards in hand, value. I mean, it's like, it is just,
oh my God.
It is so absurd because they know that it's very easy for people to stall their way into a game or to king make or to make it so that nobody wins. And it's just like, what the hell?
It becomes its own meta.
Yeah, and it's like at that point, what are we playing? Magic or like the odds? Right? Like, this is not.
That is very interesting. I also didn't think about the time constraint of like commander games. I wonder how much time do they normally give them for a CDH tournament? CDH games are not long either.
Yeah, but they are long. They're still like, there's always going to be some amount of time. There's 4 people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know the specifics because I've made it my hobby to not know anything about how tournaments work. Because, like, you know, that is, if I don't know, you can't blame me for it. Anyways, I didn't mean to bring this. I don't want to rant about those guys. That is, you know, there are TOs who are doing their best. There's an audience, obviously, that cares about playing these things. Let them find each other and enjoy what they want to do.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. It's funny, like one of your articles is called "Don't Play with Your Food, Social Interactions as Commander." I'm like, this is a girl who's talking to my heart right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm just like, your first 3 articles on EDHRec were like, you know, play more removal, don't be a jerk, and here's like when you should concede. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. These are so I get my inspiration for articles usually after playing like an insane amount of Magic one weekend. I'll just be like, I want to play as much as I can. I think one weekend I played like 15 games. It was like an insane amount. And I was just like, you know what? I feel like people are weird about concession. I need to write a whole article about how we feel about and I like to field stuff. Like a lot of my short form content on like the apps and stuff is just fielding ideas. I want to hear what people think about different things. Like something simple like, how many deck boxes do you currently have? Or something more complex like how do you feel about someone explaining your deck to a new player at a pod, right? Do you feel comfortable with that? Right? Like, because it comes up, people will get salty about that sort of thing.
Oh, they certainly. Well, I mean, I am in a weird position with that because when I sit down to play at a con or something, everybody wants to tell me their tech and their deck because they're so excited to be playing with a me. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, so, but like, you're right. There's some people who are like, yo, I don't want you to know all the cool tricks in my deck. I want you to run into them and lose, or like run into them and be surprised. And half of the fun is to be surprised, right? Like to drop a card that's older than the person playing and just be like, hey, check this thing out. And they're like, what? You know, I love that feeling. Or like honestly, the thing that keeps me coming back to Commander is the fact that when the 4 of us sit down to play, that is a game that nobody else has ever played. This
Yes.
combination of commanders has never happened and is likely to never happen again. And we're going to sit here and there's cards in your deck and my deck that are going to interact in a way that nobody ever intended, and it's going to be dumb. And that
Yeah.
is the best part of this whole thing. And that's where I get a lot of my joy is like, oh man, I need to know what happens if, like, I was playing against Olivia, and I was playing on like an EDHRec, EDH hygiene stream or something like that. And she had a white card in play, which is whenever an opponent draws a card after the first one, instead they draw one card and I draw one card. And I had Consecrated Sphinx in play. And I was like, oh, every time they draw a card, I draw two cards, which means that every time I draw a card, it's actually me and her both drawing a card, which triggers Sphinx again, which was just kind of like, oh, I could kill us both right now.
Yeah.
Like, how many cards do you want, Olivia? How long does this game want to go? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have us both draw 65 cards.
Yeah, because I think Consecrated Sphinx is optional for you, but not optional for her. That card.
It got, there was, well, I had the means to remove it. And so it was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to do this before we deck ourselves. But it's so fun. It's so fun.
I love interaction. Like when I first started playing, I started to realize that in the pod that I was playing in, a lot of people were playing the same sort of decks, the same sort of combinations. And I actually saw a video someone posted the other day that I loved. It was a beautiful video. Cannot remember their name off the top of my head, but they wrote their video was about how playing more complex and like rule heavy games of Commander makes it more fun. Because you just get more weird stuff happening, and then you have to think on your feet. It's not the same thing every time, and I think that that's the draw for me in Commander over other formats that are meta established. You don't get weird stuff when you play meta,
right? Yes, yeah. That's why. God, dude, I don't know how we got on this rant, but this is just going to be Shivam Soapbox Day. This is why I don't like super high-powered Commander games, because of the fact that you've got your combo that wins and then 38 tutors to help you get there. Yeah. And I'm like, I want chaos. I want to have 100 cards that are, every time I draw from the top of the deck, I have no idea what's coming and I want something weird to happen when I hit the table. And they're like, no, I need to win. So I need to make sure everything I'm doing is either stopping you from winning, protecting my win, or getting my win. And I'm like, okay, I get that. That's like tournament play. Fine.
Yeah, I like high power games that are synergistic. I don't like high power games that are tutorable. I like infinite combos if they're weird and hard to make, and I feel this way about the game mainly because I like weird. I don't think there's anything legitimately wrong with comboing, tutoring, or any of that stuff you're trying to win.
No, I love combos.
But I love a little bit of weird. I want to know that you will attempt a combo and I will do something weird and you won't know how to react to it. Does that give me an opening to win? That is fun.
Like, it's fun when somebody does something you don't expect with a card you've never seen before, or even a card you've seen before and you're like, I didn't know you could do that. And it's like, what do you, oh my God, you just, oh, what the hell, you know? And then
yeah, you're like brain blast. You're like, oh my God.
So that's really cool. I mean, who do you like to play in Commander? What is your style?
So my favorite things that you can do in Commander or in Magic in general is I really like graveyard stuff. I like recursion. And I like it because it's like low key extending your hand. And it's a little bit like gambling because one of the most popular black lands is Bojuka Bog, and that will absolutely turn you off. But I love gambling. My signature deck is Dahada Binder of Wells, which is a very, very powerful card that lets you put stuff in grave, and it's Legendaries Matter Reanimator. It's very, very fun.
That's a Planeswalker, right?
Yeah, it's a Planeswalker that she takes up and gives a bunch of keywords. She takes down and she basically looks at the top 4 cards, put them in grave. Yeah. It's really, really fun. I really enjoy it because it's weird. I know my lines in my deck, but if I don't flip anything good in my grave, I have to get creative. I have to figure out ways to protect myself and throw things out. And the thing is like that deck has one card that tutors in it. And I win the most with that deck, and people will say, how is it possible that you managed to get to this card without tutoring for it? I was like, because graveyards are extended hands, and if I put enough stuff in my graveyard, I can just go get what I want.
Yeah, seriously, it's like, look, dude, there's 85 cards in my graveyard. I don't need to tutor for it. I can just reanimate the one thing I need.
Yeah. There's a lot more reanimator cards than there are tutor cards. That's why, like, some people are like, Entomb should be a game changer, and I was just like, I kind of agree, because it does the thing.
Entomb has been one of the most broken cards in Magic since it was printed, and it's weird because, like, I remember the first time we all saw it, and we're like, what the hell do you mean I just throw my creatures away? Why is this good at all? And then you're like, oh, right, animate dead exists. Oh, raise dead exists. Oh, reanimate exists. Oh.
Yeah.
And then
really
bad things
good.
happen.
Go get something. And then Buried Alive is also really. I was playing Quorum the other day, which is another like reanimator deck. I love a little graveyard recursion, but I play a lot of everything. I think there isn't really like, I build a lot of decks. I like to try different stuff. I think the only thing that I haven't built truly is just like a run-of-the-mill combo deck. That's the only thing that I have not built. Something that tutors for two things and tries to win that way. It's the only deck that I have not built. If there's another type of mechanic in Magic, I've dabbled a little bit.
I don't know. See, like, I have built decks before where it's not necessarily like one combo type of deck, but it's like my Brea deck, which was 4 colors, artifacts, crazy time deck. The whole goal of that deck was like, there are a number of A's and a number of B's, and they all go together. And sometimes they will go together in a way that you did not expect, because, you know, one set of A and one B, you had no idea that these two cards were ever supposed to meet, but now they're on the table, and now something broken is going to happen. And let me tell you, my friends got very, very tired of me sitting there going like, I didn't know they could do that. Holy crap, did you read this card? And they're like, you put it in the goddamn deck. How do you not know? And I'm like, look, man, I put it because this card and this card go together, not this card and that card.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, bro.
I knew immediately when you said Brea. I was just like, artifacts are crazy.
Oh, yeah. Dude, you could do so many dumb things. And like,
you can do a lot of dumb things.
Look, I just want, like, for me, my joy in life is to be able to play a combo that's like 4 to 7 cards, and they're all very interconnected and very specific, and do stone nothing without like all being there. But once they're there, it's just like poosh, you know? Oh man, it's a good time. Commander is such a weird format.
It is. And that's what I love about it. It's so weird. Like you said, no two games of Magic, no two games of Commander are the same, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just weirdness. Someone brings out a new deck, they change one card in it, and it can be everything.
Right. And I mean, I think one of the joys here is the fact that we're getting to this weird situation where right now there are more cards than anybody can keep track of.
Yeah.
And more importantly, there are like, each of these like sets that comes out has 300 legends in it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, these are all commanders. And somebody is going to look at one of these cards and be like, this is the card I've always wanted to play. This is the specific dream. This is the best commander for the one random thing I've been thinking about my whole life. And they're going to build a deck, and you're going to be like, I don't know who this is. And I have no idea what's in your deck or what's coming. But then I guess I'm in a weird situation where sometimes I'll post a card and put a thought about it, like, oh my God, this is going to be perfect for my Gristlenast deck. And I'm like, your what deck? And they're like, excuse me, it was released in the Assassin's. I'm like, oh, bro, there are too many words on those cards. I have no idea what's going on.
I think, and I'm like notorious for being a Magic glazer. I think that the team that creates stuff for Magic are so clever. I think they do a lot of really good work. I think that even though we get a lot of new commanders and new legendaries with every set, they're not over inundated with mechanics. So a lot of cards become little baby versions of previous cards, like Baby Muldrotha, or like slightly better Gristlebrand, or like, you know, like
slightly better Gristlebrand. I don't know. You ever want slightly better?
I don't want slightly better Gristlebrand. Like, people are talking about
brokenest card of all time.
Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. I just think that the
example is not good. There isn't a slightly better Gristlebrand.
Oh God forbid. But no, like for instance, Rafiq, one of my boys, one of my favorite commanders of all time. When you attack, he gets double strike and also has
Oh yeah,
exalted or whatever.
Rafik, good
Yeah.
Voltron commander. Yeah,
Yeah, like as a diehard Voltron player, Rafik is like, whatever. But like they just put out Squall, Seed Mercenary, who's basically like a black-white Rafik. Whenever a creature attacks alone, it gets double strike, and then when he does combat damage, you can bring a thing back from the graveyard to play. And I was like, oh look, it's taking two things I like to do that would never show up on a card together and just shoving them onto a card. And I think that's way cooler than like, hey, you played a card. Let me let you draw a card and gain 3 life and draw another card for the pleasure of drawing that card. And like,
yeah, I actually like one of my like it's not a real pet peeve, but it's like a little thing. I think that value engine commander cards are boring. I think that if a card doesn't kind of force you to like think about Magic in a very specific way, it's not as fun to play, in my opinion. It's not as fun to build.
I've been singing this song for decades, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I really like a commander that is not just like, oh, okay, on your end step draw card. I would like it to say, if you jump through all these hoops, maybe you get a card, or maybe you don't get a card. Maybe you get a +1/+1 counter and you get to look at the top card of your library, right? Like I like a little weird guy, and I know that means that a lot of the decks
for it, man.
Yeah, make me work for it, and like it's kind of like I feel this way about like Arcades, which is a very good deck. I think it's like a very strong, very middle of the road. It forces you to play some of the worst cards to draw a card. You have to find a way to keep Arcades on board and then play something unplayable in other decks. And I love that. I love that in a deck.
Yes. For me, there's a deep, deep joy in because like one of the things that's cool is you will see a card and someone will be like, this is the card, like, and you're like, that's a weird card, what's it do? And someone will be like, yo, I've been playing this one commander for like 800 years. This is the one card that'll finally make it work because nobody's cared about this specific like I've been ranting about this for so long, which is like, I want you to work for Commander. I want, like, for me, the joy is digging through the bins and finding a card from Mercadian Masks that is the exact one thing that makes this thing go and like just the engine work. But you know what? On the other side, there are 100 billion more people playing Magic now than there were before. Let them have some fun. Let them have some accessibility. Here, let's just give you the thing, get you into the game, and then we'll feed you the rest. But also, like, I love me a Corval, so I'm not going to
lie. I'm not going to say there aren't some really, like, Dahada is a value engine. You do absolutely nothing and you get treasures. I'm telling you, it's just straight gas, right?
Yeah.
But I think that for me, it's like, I'm just looking for weird interactions. I am not admonishing other people from the fun that they have with decks like Corvold, which is just like sack a thing, get value. There's no questions asked.
Sometimes you just want the basic tier of just like, look, just give me a pile of frosting, please. I just need to, I just want this guy to get big and I want to swing in and win.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like my partner, he wanted to build Corvold, but he's like, Corvold is, there's nothing spicy about Corvold.
No,
he ended up
really.
building Prosh instead, which is
classic.
Which is very, very fun. It's one of his nastiest decks. I cannot stand it. I have no decks that currently can beat it unless I just turbo him and tell everyone to turbo him at the start of the game before he can get his engine online. But like,
Prosh is a nasty. Well, which Prosh are we talking about?
The one that on
there's only one. There's only one Prosh.
Okay.
The one that makes the Cobalt.
Yes.
Yeah, like I've had some friends who are things like, impact tremors. Oh no. So your Prosh comes into play and we all take 38 damage. Great.
It doesn't even have to come into play. You just need to cast it because it's a cast trigger. It's disgusting.
Yeah, no, Prosh has been around for 1,000 years and it's always just been like, when I started playing Commander, that was like one of the first big bad guys to show up.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is yeah, but it's a good, clean fun though. I love that sort of thing. It's like, look, man,
it's good. It's good. I love that deck. I think it's like phenomenal. I would never turn to the dark side and play it, but I love how it plays. I think it's like a phenomenal deck.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, dude, my favorite deck right now is Nira, which is like I cast a spell off the top, and I cast a spell, and then instead of having that spell resolve, I put it on the bottom of my deck and flip over top cards until I hit a non-land, and that's the spell that happens. And so it means that I can cast a Ponder, and sometimes I'll land a Preordain, sometimes I'll land an Ancient Silver Dragon. Who can say?
It's really interesting.
It is super fun. It's super chaotic. It doesn't do anything until turn 7 because she costs so much to cast.
Yeah, but that's like an Ovika situation. You can do some really fun stuff with Ovika, but she's
eventually
like 6 mana.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's like that deck does either nothing or it like cleans the table immediately.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
And I love that because like I don't know, it's chaos magic. That's what her character does, and that's what the deck does, and it's just like I don't know what's happening, but weird things are going to happen. This has been a great conversation, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been so fun. It's nice to just yap about magic and like the social aspect of it because that's like my favorite bit.
Well, yeah, it's like that's exactly. Yes, I agree. I think you and I are very similar in thought process here, which is why I just enjoy reading your articles a lot. But no, I'm glad that you were able to join me today. That's super sick. If folks wanted to find you or your stuff or where you write it, where could they go?
If you're looking for my writing, it's under Cas Hinds, CASHINDS. If you're looking for short form content or my streams, it's under Strixhaven Dropout.
Oh, I didn't even know you streamed.
Yeah, I stream on Tuesdays, the Dropout stream.
What do you do?
We just play Commander. We play. I need to get my games in,
dude. The problem with making content is that sometimes you're just like, oh, I have to actually play games to make more content.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's sweet. Well, anyways, man, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a delight, and you're a really cool person, and I look forward to seeing more from you. And folks, if you want to find me, you can find me at Shivam Bhatt on Blue Sky, or you can find the show anywhere podcasts are sold, or at YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam Wheeler Love Magic or the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.